I love to introduce our MSP case study, GreenLoop IT Solutions. They're one of our MSP partners that has seen success in deploying Bitwarden at scale with their prospects. I'd like to introduce Vivian Schick from the Bitwarden team, who will be running the interview with them. And it's a great opportunity to hear from some of your peers. With that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Vivian Schick.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So I'm Vivian Schick, part of the marketing team, and it's always so exciting when MSP partners are willing to share their stories with everyone and their experience in working with Bitwarden. So this morning, I'm really excited to introduce an MSP partner of Bitwarden, GreenLoop. GreenLoop is based in Arizona, and they provide custom managed IT services, which includes consulting, cybersecurity, and mostly support for small to medium businesses. And so today we have 3 members of the GreenLoop team with us. Stephen Moody, who's the CTO, Tyler Bradshaw, who is the Director of Account Management, and Randall Ladner, Senior Architect. And so I'm going to hand it over to Stephen, I believe, to begin the case study presentation. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Vivian. Thanks for having us on. We're excited to present what we've got here today. So as Vivian mentioned, I'm the CTO over at GreenLoop. Tyler Bradshaw, who we'll be talking about later, is the Director of Account Management, and Randall Ladner is our Senior Architect. So we all had different roles in the process. We'll talk about that a little bit as we go along. A little bit about GreenLoop, as Vivian mentioned, we're an MSP. I don't think I need to go into a lot of detail about what that looks like. If you're on this webinar, you're probably an MSP yourself. Mostly SMB clients, about 160 clients in Arizona and Oregon, and about 2,600 endpoints. So I just want to start by talking a little bit about how we position a password manager with our clients, kind of at a pretty high level. So we're packaging it with our managed service offering. For some clients, it's built into that offering, and for other clients, it's an add-on, kind of depending on what tier they're at. We leverage the NIST cybersecurity framework for our clients with our security recommendations, and so in that context, we're emphasizing how a password manager helps them meet some of those cybersecurity goals, helps them keep track of passwords, enables secure password sharing, makes it easier to revoke credentials when people leave or are terminated, reduces password reuse across accounts, and so we're having conversations around those goals with our clients. Our less technical staff, especially our account managers, are really taking the lead on that with clients. And so they're introducing the product to clients, talking about the recommendations, working to convince them of their need for the product. And then once clients want to move forward, they are doing the introductory work on that. So introductory onboarding, doing some training. Our approach is generally to train a couple of users on the client side, usually admins internally, and then the clients are managing that themselves. So we found that works best in terms of the client having some initial ownership of the tool, being invested in it. Something that's that internal facing is hard for us to push forward. And so the clients being invested in it, understanding it at a low level, and then managing them themselves, it has worked really well for us so far. And so how we got here is in 2021, we started using a password manager that was channel friendly. We started rolling out to our clients. And then in early 2022, that vendor was acquired, announced that they were shutting down their solution. And we had about 6 weeks to select a new vendor, implement it for the 50 clients that were using our password manager at that point. And so that's where I hand it over to Randall, who's going to talk a little bit about our criteria for evaluating a password management solution and how we landed on Bitwarden.
Hello, everybody. So to kind of go through some of this criteria, I think we had some very specific things in mind when we started looking for a new solution. The very first thing is that it's channel friendly. Not all the solutions out there with the partner program have the requisite information for managing multiple accounts. You end up with kind of a a giant pile of users, and it's very hard to manage that without a multi-tenant structure. Bitwarden really delivered on that front. They brought not only multi-tenancy, but the ability to potentially even let organizations go if for some reason we were to kind of break ties. They're able to take that piece of our multi-tenancy with them. So it doesn't end up being something that we completely own. It ends up being something that our clients actually own because it really is their information. And then they can take that and kind of do what they will with it if for some reason we're no longer managing it. So we saw it as a plus, kind of putting that in their corner and letting them have access and ownership of that data. Another big thing, centralized credential sharing. All of the other channel vendors that we implemented kind of did this through workarounds and, quite frankly, non-starting methods. More or less, all of it ended up being an iteration of some kind of another account that you could kind of call a service account, if nothing else, that you then shared all of the logins from with everybody on your team. And that was supposed to be kind of a shared solution. Bitwarden brings an actual centralized sharing solution that sits at the organizational level so that admins can really kind of share that back and forth with the members of their team in a way that none of the other solutions we looked at could do. Bitwarden's definitely ahead of the game in that area. Another big thing, easy transitions. It was super easy to move away from anything to Bitwarden, and it continues to be that way. Bitwarden is kind of like a Swiss Army knife in that regard, where if they don't have a direct migration path for the solution somebody's migrating away from, they have some kind of methodologies that allow you to adapt almost anything to a solution that can then be imported back into Bitwarden. And that's a fairly light lift across the board because you can do almost anything if you try long enough, but Bitwarden really does try to make that as streamlined as possible, even when the two pieces don't fit directly together. So another big one, self-manageable. Having our clients be able to manage that, like I kind of talked about originally, so that they can kind of own that solution, and we're not getting between their passwords and them. We're just sort of acting like an escalation or a big brother to make sure that things go right for them. Again, another great thing, low learning curve on this software. I think in the first maybe 6 or 8 hours, we had a very good understanding of everything about it. And that's not something that I could say about any of our other vendors. So let's kind of go through real quick a little bit of our evaluation kind of matrix, the way that we do things. Just to kind of tell you how stringent we were with this. We evaluated 5 major vendors. 3 of them kind of passed the initial feature comparison matrix that we sort of set up, that we had requirements on exactly what we wanted to see from these pieces of software. Multi-tenancy, the ability to have a centralized collection where you can share passwords with your team without it being attached directly to somebody's account, those sorts of things. And what we kind of found was that through some hands-on trials with all of those solutions, Bitwarden was clearly superior. The collections, again, was a giant plus that nobody else was doing quite right at that time. We really liked the fact that Bitwarden has an open source architecture. When done right, we definitely feel that can actually lend to security in ways that closed source solutions might not. Documentation and ease of use, also great with Bitwarden. I haven't seen a knowledge base in any of these tools quite as good as Bitwarden's. It's very in-depth. There's pretty much an answer to anything you might ask. And I think that's sort of rare in this space. Generally speaking, the documentation will kind of just leave you sort of wondering if that question can be answered, or if they're just not answering it properly, or what exactly is going on there. So I think Bitwarden does a very good job of laying everything out as kind of straightforward and honestly as possible, so that you don't have to call support, ask 6 questions, and then possibly get the answer. I never really dealt with that with Bitwarden. And the other 2 that we ended up going in depth with, I had to have multiple calls with the account managers to figure out exactly how the tool would function and how they were going to deliver on certain aspects that weren't clear. So I think the big things with Bitwarden, again, documentation, great. Ease of use, great. Ease of administration, awesome. And then the ability to transition easily sort of sealed the deal for us. So now that I've talked up Bitwarden quite a bit, let me pass this over to Tyler so that he can explain how we implemented it.
Great, thanks, Randall. Everybody. So we found that during the transition process, in order to have, really the key to successful adoption among clients was outlining the importance of using an enterprise password manager to key decision makers. And really, once we had those key decision makers on board and they really understood the security and convenience benefits of using an enterprise password manager, that made the rollout to their team and the successful adoption really a lot faster and easier. So that process would start with discussing our security and product recommendations with clients, one of which would be the importance of using a product like Bitwarden. From there, we would send out introductory emails along with an invite to set up an initial training call, with those key decision makers. From there, we would also send out staff-facing emails that they would use or could use to introduce the product to their teams. And then we would basically get going in a lot smoother fashion once they had all that information out to their teams ahead of time. The introduction emails would also include links directly to some of the Bitwarden knowledge base articles that Randall mentioned, just because they were that clearly written and that good, so they kind of accomplished what we needed to. During those training calls, we'd go over the install process, how to install the software for the regular desktop client, for browser add-ons. Also go through the process of how they could add their team members to the platform, and then also the transition process if they were going to be importing content from another platform. So overall, our feedback from clients has been really positive. Clients really like the interface overall, easy to find things, easy to add users when needed, easy to update permissions on the various groups that they're creating. So overall, the key has been getting those primary decision makers on board first, and then from there, the rollout's been a much smoother process. I think that's it for me.
All right, so short and sweet, I think that's what we had to present. I think Vivian might have had some questions. I guess there might be some questions from the audience.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen, Randall, and Tyler for sharing all of that. Well, first, I wanted to open the floor up for any questions from the audience. I meant to put something in the comment section to remind folks, but for some reason I wasn't able to post my comment. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to just send them over through the chat, through the live chat. But while we're waiting, I did have a question. I'll start with Randall. I think, or the rest of the team can feel free to answer too. I'm curious, since GreenLoop was founded in 2011, it was in 2021, I think, that you decided to add password management to your general security offering. And I'm curious what happened at that time that caused you to make the decision to finally offer password security to your customers.
Yeah, I don't know that so much it was something that happened in 2021. I think it was a business decision for us to take what we're already recommending that our clients go out and do, and be a little bit more hands-on about making sure that they have the right product, that it is a functional, effective, and secure product, and that we know how to support it so that when they have questions or concerns, we're easily able to help them with it, versus sort of saying, hey, go out and find a password manager, and whichever one you find, we'll help you support it. We have no idea if it's going to be great or not. And I think taking that a little bit more directly not only helps our clients get a better solution that is more secure, it helps us as an MSP make sure that we have the right answers and the right solutions available when questions do come up, rather than trying to manage the gamut of every password solution that might be out there. Got it.
That makes sense. And so we have another question that came through the audience. How has the feedback been from your clients? So maybe that's the question for Tyler.
Yeah, client feedback's been very positive overall. As I mentioned, we switched away from a previous platform to Bitwarden. So clients did have a chance to kind of compare the two and got a chance to see really the strengths of the Bitwarden platform, and the feedback overall has been really good. So again, our model includes getting client primary contacts or whoever they designate is going to be managing this platform for them internally up to speed and familiar with the platform before we try to push for a larger kind of staff-wide deployment of this product. So usually we have at least somebody on staff that the rest of the client team members can go to if they've got questions about the product. So they do have that resource available to them. They also are invited to reach out to us directly if they have questions on the platform. But generally, those technical questions are pretty rare. Most of the time, it's, hey, I saw this feature inside the platform and I don't have a lot of information about it. Can we talk about it? So overall, I mean, when we do get questions from clients or feedback from clients, it's generally positive. We really haven't had a big influx of similar, I should say, concerns or complaints about previous platforms, as much as we did with Bitwarden.
Great. Thanks for that question. So I have a question, and maybe for Tyler as well. So speaking of your clients, what are some of the adoption best practices that you've observed through your clients and them getting folks on their team excited and using a password manager? So a lot of the feedback that I hear from customers is, the IT team is very happily using Bitwarden and using password security and understanding the value of it. But then in rolling it out to the broader employees and the broader team, people who are not as technical perhaps have a slower time seeing the value in using it. What have you observed from your clients?
Yeah, there does seem to be a bit of a generational divide. Younger staff members do take to the product a little faster, easier. Usually I'd start adopting it and using it quicker than some of the folks that have been around for a long time and have kind of their process, kind of set in their ways. So overall, I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't always get them to participate in using the platform. Our goal is to make that as easy as possible and to outline the benefits with those key decision makers. Because really, if they're trying to achieve their compliance goals, of which using a enterprise password manager is one, this helps kind of light the fire for those key decision makers to really push upon their staff to have some product like this in place and to use it as frequently as possible. So I think that's usually the approach that's worked the best, is kind of doing it from top down, getting those key decision makers on board, outlining the security and compliance benefits of using a product like Bitwarden. And from there, they're able to really sell the product to their staff for us.
That's great. Thank you. And then I think there's another question that Ezra posed. Someone had asked him if the GreenLoop team could share the percentage of your customers that are on a password manager, and then within those customers, any idea what percentage of their users adopt?
Tyler would probably be the best one to answer that question also.
Sure. So right now we've got about 30% or so of our clients that are using the platform. And we're seeing regular adoption as we kind of go through meeting with clients. We've been using the product for some time now, so I think most clients have actually gotten at least the first discussion had with, hey, we've got a new product available or a new platform available that we really like. Let me outline the benefits for you. So usually and probably most of the folks on this webinar know this, but it does sometimes take a conversation or two, maybe 3, maybe 4 with clients to finally get them to hear and understand some of the benefits of the products that you're recommending as an MSP. So this one, we're kind of on to the round 2 of kind of having to getting a chance to push a little harder and already have this be a familiar discussion that they've had with their MSP, with GreenLoop. And I'd say within the organization, it really depends. I mean, some clients take this very seriously, and they make sure that all of their staff have this product installed, especially those that have to comply with certain regulatory requirements, your FINRA, HIPAA clients. So for them, it's a lot different scenario than clients that don't have those regulatory responsibilities. So it really depends on the client type.
Got it. We did have a question come through, but this is more of a specific product related question, probably more for the Bitwarden team versus the GreenLoop team. So Davathon, we will hold your question. We will get to that soon. So thank you for asking. So going back to the GreenLoop team, maybe another question for Randall. I have two more questions and then we'll wrap up. If anyone else has more questions, please send them through the chat. Randall, you talked about the easy transition and being able to Bitwarden, making it very easy and streamlined to move from one solution over to another. Can you speak a little bit more to that?
Sure, yeah. So Bitwarden has extensive documentation on how to migrate away from it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 platforms, I think, right now. And most of those are as simple as performing the export process from that platform and then performing the import process into Bitwarden. Whole thing start to finish with most platforms likely takes you about 15 to 20 minutes to actually get the data imported, and then a little bit of cleanup on the other side because the structure might not be exactly the same. But 90% of the time, it is as simple as that. If the platform does not have some form of a direct tool with Bitwarden, Bitwarden offers a CSV tool where you can then get exports in some form of a flat file, a CSV, hopefully, from the other tool, and then map those locations one-to-one with the Bitwarden C import and import that data regardless of the fact that there isn't a tool that exists to do an easy export import into Bitwarden. So really, they provide you with all of the tools you'll need to get out of a platform and get into Bitwarden. It's never a situation, at least that I've seen, where you look at a solution and you say, well, there's simply no way to do this unless that solution had no export capability whatsoever, which so far I have not found one that has nothing.
Yeah. Great. And just for the folks here, just for your awareness, this week we actually just announced an enhanced encrypted export option where folks, if you are looking to export your Bitwarden vault into another vault, we have added an additional option where you can password protect your encrypted files. So this just versus using your account's encryption key, which is one of the first method. So we do have additional options for folks looking to export and back up their vault. So that's just a FYI there. So my last question for the GreenLoop team, and let's see if there's anyone else that have asked any questions. So I think for MSP, so I think that's another question for Bitwarden. So we'll skip that question for now, and we'll get to that later. But last question for the GreenLoop team is really, what can partners like Bitwarden continue to do or start doing to help MSP vendors such as yourself be more successful? How can we work together to build a successful relationship?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we've been really pleased with our relationship with Bitwarden on the channel side from the beginning, especially for a company where the channel side was not your original line of business and hasn't been like kind of the core income stream up to this point. That's gone really well, and we've been excited about that so far. The stuff that we thought of that would be helpful, it seems like it's all stuff you're already working on. So really just kind of making the billing more consolidated and more transparent across our customers, and then being able to integrate with some common MSP tools that we're using. But looked on your roadmap, and those things were already on there and apparently coming pretty soon. So we're excited about some of those improvements and kind of the continued focus on the channel that we see Bitwarden doing.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and we have a couple of folks on our project team this morning to speak to that roadmap as well. Well, great. If there's nothing else from the rest of the audience, thank you so much, GreenLoop team, Stephen, Randall, Tyler. Thank you for being our partners and for putting your trust in Bitwarden. We look forward to a successful relationship.